Important Bar Rules Series.
Civil procedure. Subject matter jurisdiction. Federal courts are courts of limited jurisdiction and may only hear cases involving federal question or diversity of citizenship. Federal question. Federal courts have jurisdiction over actions that arise under federal law. The federal law at issue must be articulated in the initial well-pleaded complaint and cannot be based on an anticipated defense. Diversity. Federal courts have jurisdiction over actions between citizens of different states where the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000. Complete diversity. There must be complete diversity, meaning all defendants must be diverse from all plaintiffs. A person's citizenship is determined by his domicile, which is where he is physically present with intent to remain. A corporation is a citizen of its state of incorporation, and the state where the corporation has its principal place of business under the nerve center test. The amount in controversy. The amount in controversy is based on a good faith measure of damages at the time of filing. Where an injunction is sought, the amount is measured by the value of the performance. Claims may be aggregated to meet the minimum requirement. Supplemental. Where the court has proper subject matter jurisdiction over one claim. Supplemental jurisdiction allows the court to hear an additional claim which itself does not independently satisfy the requirements of jurisdiction, if the additional claim shares a common nucleus of operative fact with the original claim. Removal. A defendant may remove a case from state court to federal court if 1. All defendants consent to the removal. 2. The federal court has subject matter jurisdiction over the action. And 3. A notice of removal is filed within 30 days of service of the initial pleading or other paper from which removability is first ascertainable. In a diversity case, the defendant must not be a citizen of the forum state. Remand. If removal to federal court is improper, the plaintiff may move to have the case remanded back to state court. Personal jurisdiction. The court must have proper jurisdiction over the parties to an action. The traditional bases for personal jurisdiction include domicile within the state, consent, and service of process within the state. Long-arm statute. If a party is not domiciled within the state, the state's long-arm statute gives the state power to assert jurisdiction over an out-of-state defendant, subject to constitutional limitations. California's long-arm statute allows the exercise of jurisdiction to the full extent of the Constitution. Thus, the exercise of personal jurisdiction is co-extensive with the Constitution. Minimum contacts. Minimum contacts require a showing of purposeful availment of the benefits and protections of the forum state, such that it was reasonably foreseeable that his actions would lead to him being hailed into court. Relatedness. If the claim arises from the activities that establish the minimum contacts, the court is said to have specific jurisdiction and may properly hear the claim. If the claim is unrelated to those activities, then the court must establish general jurisdiction, meaning that the defendant's contacts must be so extensive that the defendant is considered at home in the forum state and subject to jurisdiction for any claim. Fairness. The exercise of jurisdiction must be fair to both the parties and the state, considering such factors as 1. The plaintiff's interest in obtaining relief. 2. The defendant's hardship in traveling to the forum state. 3. The location of evidence and witnesses. And 4. The state's interest in regulating activity within its borders. Venue. Venue is proper. 1. Where the claim arose or land is located. Or 2. Where any defendant resides if all defendants reside in the same state. 3. if no district satisfies these venue requirements. Venue is proper in any district where any defendant is subject to the court's personal jurisdiction. Transfer of venue. If the original venue is proper, the court may, in the interest of justice, transfer to another federal court where the case could have been filed. If the original venue was improper, the court must either dismiss or transfer to a proper venue. Choice of law. Erie. A federal court sitting in diversity must apply state substantive law and federal procedural law. The goal is to avoid forum shopping and the inequitable administration of justice. If a federal rule of civil procedure is on point, then the FRCP applies as a procedural law. Statutes of limitation and choice of law are considered substantive. If there is a conflict between state and federal law, and it is unclear whether the law is substantive or procedural, the court will apply two tests. Discovery. The process of discovery requires the disclosure of 1. Non-privileged material, 2. that is relevant to any party's claim or defense, and 3. proportional to the needs of the case. Work product. Work product is a document or tangible material prepared in anticipation of litigation. It is generally not discoverable unless the party seeking discovery can show a substantial need and an inability to obtain the information by other means. Summary judgment. A motion for summary judgment shall be granted when, prior to trial, the moving party can show that 1. There is no genuine dispute of material fact and 2. The movant is entitled to judgment as a matter of law. The court must construe all evidence in the light most favorable to the non-moving party. Claim preclusion. Claim preclusion. Res judicata. Precludes relitigation of a claim that has already been decided in prior litigation between the same parties. California's primary rights theory allows a separate claim for each right, even if arising from the same transaction or occurrence. 1. Final judgment on the merits. 2. Same claim. 3. Same parties or their privies. Issue preclusion. Issue preclusion. Collateral estoppel. Precludes relitigation of a particular issue that has already been decided in a prior litigation. Collateral estoppel may only be used against someone who was a party in the prior litigation. It may be used by a stranger to the prior case, if doing so would be fair. 1. Final judgment on the merits. 2. Same issue litigated. 3. Essential to the judgment. Fairness. Defensive issue preclusion to avoid liability requires that the court consider whether the plaintiff had a fair opportunity to diligently litigate in the prior trial. Offensive issue preclusion to establish liability against the defendant is disfavored, unless the plaintiff can show that it is fair and equitable. It is not allowed when the defendant faces a different type of trial or a different burden of proof.